Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Cycle 5858. I am Amish Cycle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please let's go to the headlines.
America's most watched newscast, now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney Plus. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney Plus every night.
Tonight we have several breaking stories as we come on the air what President Trump just said about Iran amid possible U.S. military action. Also breaking tonight, former President Bill Clinton. The questioning today lasting hours about Jeffrey Epstein. President Clinton saying, "I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong." And President Trump tonight saying of Bill Clinton, "I like him. I don't like seeing him deposed." Tonight, what we've learned about what played out inside the hearing. Also, the breaking news on Iran tonight is the U.S. preparing to take military action against Iran. What President Trump said just a short time ago. Also, just in tonight, the extraordinary showdown between the Pentagon and artificial intelligence giant Anthropic. The company refusing to give the Pentagon unrestricted access to its AI technology. The company says it's concerned about the potential of fully autonomous weapons without human involvement. President Trump late today now banning Anthropic from all federal agencies. Tonight, the Nancy Guthrie disappearance, the vehicles in those early morning hours, one car seen on a ring cam within minutes of Guthrie's disappearance. Authorities tonight say it's this kind of video they still need, with Savannah Guthrie tonight posting about the family's $1 million reward and the ability to stay anonymous. Tonight, the U.S. military mistakenly shooting down a Customs and Border Protection drone near the Texas border using a high-powered laser. The confusion between agencies leading to potential danger in the skies. Tonight, the FAA has restricted some of that airspace until June. What's going on? The father whose son is accused of killing 2 teachers and 2 students taking the stand in his own defense today. Breaking down during his testimony, accused of buying his son the gun, even when there were warnings. What that father said about that. The deadly train derailment at rush hour, the train jumping the tracks, slamming into a building. We are tracking a new snowstorm hitting this weekend. We'll have the forecast. The scare on the field for Lionel Messi, who was tackled to the ground. Remembering a legendary singer-songwriter tonight.
Breaking up is hard.
He famously sang, "Breaking up is hard to do." And we heard from so many of you at home responding to our story on Punch the Monkey. Abandoned by his mother, shunned by the other monkeys. You will definitely want to see what they've shown us tonight.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
This is Sky News, the headlines.
I will keep on fighting for those people for as long as I've got breath in my body.
But after the Greens take Gorton and Denton and Labour finishes third behind reform, has the Prime Minister's authority been fatally weakened? I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong. Bill Clinton speaks out over his links to Jeffrey Epstein as he faces questions from the US Congress. Is Donald Trump preparing to strike Iran? British and American diplomats are withdrawn from the Middle East as the US president says he's not happy with the way nuclear negotiations are going. And Downing Street condemns the defacing of Sir Winston Churchill's statue in Parliament Square as completely abhorrent.
To make us cry and rejoice all over again. The Piano starts March 15 on ABC TV and ABC iView.
Today, police charge a 20-year-old man with planning a terrorist attack in WA. We're expected to hear from state authorities shortly. Former US President Bill Clinton tells a congressional committee he had no idea about Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. Pakistan and Afghanistan exchanged deadly cross-border attacks after the collapse of a ceasefire. And American singer-songwriter Neil Sedaka has died. He was 86. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Melissa McKay. The Prime Minister has described a WA man's alleged plans to carry out a mass casualty terror attack against public buildings and the state's Muslim community as particularly distressing. 20-year-old Jason Joseph Michaels was arrested at his WA home on Thursday as part of an investigation into online hate speech. Police say they found guns, knives, ammunition, gas masks and a manifesto-style document at his home, along with plans to attack mosques, the state's parliament and police headquarters. Mr Michaels was refused bail when he appeared in the Perth Magistrates Court on 5 charges.
This is Asia Now.
It's 11 a.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 8:30 in New Delhi and 10 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Malakya Silveraji at this hour. Afghanistan calls for talks as Pakistani forces target cities like Kabul after declaring open war against the Taliban. De-escalating violence prompting calls for a truce as countries like Qatar, Turkey and Iran offer to mediate. Mediator Oman says Iran has agreed to never possess material capable of producing a nuclear bomb. The apparent breakthrough in an 11th-hour diplomatic push to avert possible U.S. strikes, raising hopes for a peace deal. A military plane has crashed in the Bolivian city of El Alto, and reports say at least 15 people are dead and more than 30 others injured. The C-130 Hercules aircraft was reportedly carrying new banknotes bound for the interior of the country.
Replications of Africans get in a previous report document from the American say the US will only admit 7,500 total refugees from around the world in fiscal year 2026, while a much higher cap of 40,000 to 60,000 was discussed internally last year. Only 2,001 South Africans had entered the US as refugees as of January 31st this year, and a program launched in May 2025. Trump ordered a halt of refugee admissions into the US after taking office in 2025 as part of his crackdown on legal and illegal immigration, but weeks later, he launched an effort to bring in white South Africans of African ethnicity as refugees, saying they had been violently persecuted in the majority black country. The South Africa's government has rejected that claim, while some refugee advocates have criticized Trump's policy.
Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister says at least 55 of the country's citizens have been killed fighting for Russia in its war in Ukraine. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa was speaking after operates jurisdiction. A growing number of African countries have in months begun to cover that their citizens have been duped into fighting for the Russian army. That 1,036 countries in Africa had been recruited to fight. Most say they were promised lucrative civilian jobs, but were instead forced to sign contracts with the army and sent to fight against Ukraine with limited training. The death of the Ghanaians is the highest number of casualties from a single African country being officially confirmed in the war.
Nigeria's Electoral Commission has revealed that the country's next presidential election will take place on the 16th of January 2027, weeks earlier than initially planned. The former date had been denounced by the Muslim community as it coincided.
Friday night, Canada's shrinking economy. What's driving the downward trend that caught economists?
It's like a flat road.
And fears that thousands of jobs are being swallowed up by AI. Bill Clinton under oath.
This is a historical day.
What the former U.S. president said about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. New signs that the U.S. is inching toward war with Iran. Why a nuclear deal remains elusive. Plus, Paralympics and politics.
It's really like trying to forget and cancel the 4 years of war fought in Ukraine.
The uproar over allowing Russia and Belarus back into the games.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin with good news and bad news for the Canadian economy. First, the bad. This country's economic output shrank in the fourth quarter, marking the slowest pace of annual growth in a decade outside the pandemic. But overall, spending was up, which bodes well for the months ahead. The data comes just as a major U.S. tech firm announced thousands of layoffs, and the company says it plans to replace those workers with artificial intelligence. Heather Yerkes West on whether it's a sign of change to come for the Canadian workforce.
It's the kind of news many Canadians had been bracing for since the U.S. began targeting export sectors with tariffs last year. Still news that
This is DW News live from Berlin. The Taliban says it's open to talks after Pakistan bombs cities in Afghanistan. Targets include the Afghan capital, Kabul, with Pakistan's defense minister saying the two neighbors are in a state of open war. Also coming up, President Donald Trump orders all U.S. federal agencies to stop using Anthropic AI after it refuses to allow unrestricted military use of its technology. And NASA is reshaping its Artemis rocket program to return astronauts to the moon by 2028, before China gets there.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on France 24. It's time for Night Watch. I'm Clemence Voller, and these are your headlines. Oman says Tehran and Washington have reached a breakthrough in nuclear talks, with Iran agreeing not to stockpile enriched uranium. Amid recent U.S. military deployments and soaring regional tensions, mediators say a deal could be finalized within 3 months, thus avoiding a possible war. U.S. President Donald Trump raises the possibility of a, quote, friendly takeover of Cuba without expanding on what he means. The remarks come 2 days after Cuban authorities reported a clash between its troops and a Florida-registered speedboat carrying 10 armed U.S.-based Cubans. Pakistan bombs Kabul and other Afghan provinces as its defense minister confirms the country is in open war with Afghanistan. Islamabad accuses its neighbor of aiding the Pakistani Taliban, which has seen an uptick in border clashes. The UN and Red Cross are calling for an immediate ceasefire.
Fox News alert, the Epstein blast radius has reached Chappaqua, as Bill Clinton testified under oath today about his relationship with the dead pedophile. The former president saying this: I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong. If only Bubba had seen something on the Lolita Express.
Clinton had, and Secretary Clinton confirmed this yesterday, Jeffrey Epstein was in the White House 17 times. While Bill Clinton was president, we know that Bill Clinton flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane at least 27 times. So those are questions that we're going to ask. Everything that most media outlets have reported with respect to pictures and correspondence between Epstein, Maxwell, and Bill Clinton, these are all questions that we're going to ask today.
Bill Clinton flew around the world on Epstein's private jet. He went to Africa, Asia, including trips to China and Russia with the sex offender. What was Bill Clinton doing in China and Russia with Jeffrey Epstein? We're not accusing Bill of a crime. He hasn't been accused of a crime. Back rubs are legal. Hot tubs, no law against hot tubs. And swimming with Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, you can't get locked up for that. Hillary might just throw another ashtray at your head.
Thank you for watching. I'm Shakil 5858. I hope you will come again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.